Take your time. We got time.
We got time.
Welcome, everyone. On October 25th, the Toronto Blue Jays announced Charlie Montoyo as the 13th manager in franchise history. And today we are fortunate enough to have Charlie here to meet with the media. Before we hear from Charlie and take questions, General Manager Ross Atkins would like to say a few words.
Yeah, just a little bit about our process and how excited we are as a group here today. This is a really proud moment for myself and for the Toronto Blue Jays. I think just wanted to share a little bit in background, in terms of background, as we went through the search process and considered all of our alternatives. We had a lot of good alternatives. We really did. We felt good about the work that was done in baseball operations. It was a very large group of people gathering a lot of information, and it stuck out to me as I was, resumes are obviously a big part, of learning about someone's background, and we certainly knew where Charlie had been. And I was a farm director in 2007. That was his first year as a AAA manager for the Durham Bulls. And I remember, watching him across the field and thinking, year in and year out, not just 2007, this individual is doing a very good job. Because it could be a group of free agent players, it could be prospect laden, but year in and year out, the Durham Bulls were more than competitive. They played the game hard, they played the game the right way, and they won. Say what you will about winning in the minor leagues. I believe it's very important. We share that here. They shared that in Tampa Bay. And being a farm director, watching him year in and year out win, I was asking our managers, at the time, Torey Lavello, and then it was Mike Sarbaugh, then it was Chris Tremmy, tell me about Charlie Montoyo. And they would always talk about his competitiveness. They would always talk about his leadership. They'd always talk about the things I mentioned, having the results that he had. And they would always talk about the person and the character and how good of a person he was. So this is a very, very competitive world we're in, and that's uncommon. It is unusual. Those guys are competing for jobs, even though it's a different organization. It's not that typical that peers are speaking of others that are clearly competing to get to the major leagues against one another the way that those individuals spoke of them. So as we continued our work, and it wasn't just me making phone calls, as I mentioned, it was a large group of people. One phone call I made to a player that Charlie had recently impacted really struck me. So I texted this individual and asked him if we could speak about Charlie and about the impact and influence he's had on him. And he asked me because he needed some time. He said, "Can we talk tonight?" Sure. So when I called, he had clearly prepared for the interaction, and he thought through why he thought Charlie would be an exceptional manager. And he said, first and foremost, he is a remarkable human being. He's a great father. He's a great husband. And it gives me a great deal of confidence that the guidance he's providing me is very good guidance. He does that consistently, and I want to get to the field every day to see him. That is leadership in baseball, and we could not be more proud and more honored to have added that leadership to our culture and our environment. So I'd like to welcome Charlie Montoyo as the 13th manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, and I couldn't be more proud in doing so.
Thank you, Ross.
Yeah, congratulations. This is not my forte here. You got it.
Too big.
Congratulations.
Keep it like this. It's funny. I want to thank people, and I don't want to forget anybody. And I forgot my shooter, so I don't know that I can't even see it right now. So, but anyways, of course, I want to thank Mark and Ross for this great opportunity. I don't take it for granted. And You have no idea how thankful I am for this opportunity, and I'm gonna do my best, guys, to make you proud. And also want to thank the Tampa Bay Rays. You know, I was here for 22 years. Eric Heim, Matt Silverman, Tom Foley, Mitch Lukovics. All those guys were great. Of course, my mom and dad. My mom, Nydia. My dad, Felix. My sister, Wandy. And my two brothers, Robert and Felito. My whole town of Florida, Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico. That little town of 12,000 people, they're jumping around of happiness, and they couldn't be any prouder of me, and that makes me really happy. Also, Burton Rocks, Don Orderman, that guy's my angel. He's the reason I came to the States for the first time, and he's the reason I'm here. And of course, Tyson, my son, he's 15 years old, great kid, great brother. My son, Alex, he's 11 years old, and he's going to be the Toronto Blue Jays #1 fan. I'll tell you that right now. And of course, my wife, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't even be here either. I've said this story before. I'm glad I went back to Charleston for my second year because that's where I met her. And she's been the rock of the family. And one beautiful thing about this is that she got to fly first class coming this way, which she deserves, you know. That's awesome. And you know, I just want to end there like, babe, you've been great, and you're one of the main reasons I'm here. And she picked everything I have on because she picked it. You know, we're a good team. So, and again, I'm very thankful, and I'm sure I forgot some names, but yeah, thank you, Mark and Ross, for this great opportunity.
All right, thank you, Charlie and Ross. Before we take questions, please remember to raise your hand and wait for a microphone to be brought to you, and identify yourself and your media affiliation.
Mike Wilner from the Blue Jays Radio Network. All right, we seem to have the audio in order now. Charlie, welcome and congratulations. I just want to know, Ross said glowing things about you that your other managers in AAA have said, and other farm directors, since you got this job and they announced it, there's been just this outpouring from the baseball community, how happy they are for you, how proud they are of you, and to a man, he deserves it. This is the guy who deserves this opportunity. What's it feel like for you to hear all that from everyone around the game?
I think that's the biggest thing for me. Not only when he told me that I was going to be the next manager, but the reaction of all my friends, all the baseball people in the game, and one phone call that it touched me a lot, and I shared with Ross, was Don Zimmer's wife. She sent me, and I have it. I'll play it for you guys later because it meant a lot to me. He said, Don Zimmer in heaven, he'll be so proud of you right now because you did it the right way. You coach in the mountain leagues, and now you're a manager in the big leagues, and he'll be so proud of you. So yeah, that really touched me. But there's plenty of more of good phone calls and texts. And me being that kind of guy, I reply to all of them because I don't want anybody to say I've changed already.
Charlie, Rich Griffin, your former PR guy in Montreal. With all those years that you managed in the minor leagues, 8 years at Durham, without access to the modern analytics, I would assume you get to the major leagues, and for 4 years you're managing, or you're watching a manager perform differently. Are you like a born-again analytics guy now that you've seen it, and are Toronto fans going to have to get used to the opener and infield shifts all the time?
I wouldn't say that. I think I'm a blend of old school and analytics. So, you know, I think using both, I think that makes you a better manager. And yeah, but no, I wouldn't say I'm just one way or the other. But, you know, I know wherever I can find useful information, that's where I'm going to go. And that's why it's going to be so big when we get our coaching staff and talk about it. And so, yeah. So, but no, I wouldn't call myself that. But I'm a blend.
Hi, Charlie. Eduardo Harari from La Portada, Canada. One of the things that hasn't been said enough is that you are the first Hispanic manager in the Blue Jays organization. And how does that feel? How does that feel being Boricua as well?
You know what's beautiful just happened in the last couple of days? As you guys know, Puerto Rico got hit by a big storm last year, and we lost many lives and stuff. And then all of a sudden, in the last 2 days, a Puerto Rican manager takes a team to the World Series and wins the World Series, Alex Cora. And then the next day, I get introduced as a manager for the Toronto Blue Jays. So there's a lot of happiness in Puerto Rico now, and I'm proud of that.
Charlie, hi. Steve Simmons from the Toronto Sun. Last night, of course, is an important night for your country. Today's an important night for your country. The best player in Blue Jays history happens to be a Puerto Rican. When you factor on everything that's going on, what does today mean to you and to your country?
And again, yeah, because it means a lot. And again, it was so tough, you know, not having power and losing lives and stuff, you know, and not having many Latin managers in the big leagues. And so just by what happened last night and what's going on today, that's just going to bring so much, you know, so much joy to people that suffered so much last year. And I cannot thank Mark and Ross enough for giving me this opportunity.
Right here, Adrian Gobriel with City News, City TV. What would you say when it comes down to decision making for you as a manager? What would you rely on more on your gut or analytics? And if I could get a two-part question in, what would you also say to critics who say analytics are killing the game, the romance side of the game?
Yeah, I see what people mean by that, but both, you know, a lot of times analytics are just giving you what you knew already by managing. So you got feeling, and then you say, okay, yeah, I was right, you know, or yeah. So it's going to be, I'm going to have 7 coaches. I'm going to use that information, the analytics side, my gut feeling, and then we're going to make a decision. That's how I'm going to do it, not just one way or the other.
Hi, Rosie DeMano from the Toronto Star. All those years in the minors, I think it's 18, right?
Yeah, but who's counting?
Right. You may have enjoyed them a great deal and had a lot of success, but what took so long?
You know, and again, I'm going to give a message here that because I think it was 2003 when Jim Leland won, and I remember he was looking straight to the camera, and I was in instructional league, and he was one of those guys that said, you know, all those guys in the instructional league that are watching me right now, just keep you doing your job. You never know, dreams come true and stuff. So I want to take this moment right now with that question you just asked and tell the same thing to all those minor league guys that are grinding it out right now, and just keep doing your job. You know, keep teaching those players, and you know, and you never know. If a guy like me got here, it could be you too. So yeah, don't think ahead. Don't think about moving up. Just think about your job at hand, and you're gonna be a very good minor league player. And who knows, you might be a big league manager someday, like I am now.
Hi, Charlie.
Where are we? Okay.
From the Blue Jays social media team, we have a fan question for you from Ryan, MetalMex21. And the question is, what would you say was the best advice you've ever received from another manager to help you in this role?
Just from watching guys, just being positive. You know, it's a tough game, you know, and I remember a guy named Tom Gamboa. He managed me in winter ball, and actually, you know what's funny? I used his signs all the way from Princeton, West Virginia, to my 4 years in the big leagues. The same signs for 22 years. And one of the things that he always did that I always learned from is just be positive. Like here, I could bring a lefty in, right, to get a double play ball, and the ball finds a hole. I would talk to that guy, I would tell him, great job, you did what I asked you to do. It just happens to find the hole. And you know what, that kid's gonna feel a lot better next time he goes in because he knows he did his job, it just didn't work out. So that's one thing I learned, you know.
Charlie, Steve Buffery from the Toronto Sun. I know you've only been here a short while, but what are your thoughts on what the Jays have in their lineup, what they have in their minor league system, and what do you think you can do with this team this upcoming season?
You know, looking at this team from the other side almost reminds me of the team we have in Tampa. You know, a lot of younger kids. You know, there's going to be a lot of player development deals we got to teach, but honestly, I wasn't even thinking about that for the last couple of days. I wanted to make sure I got this job first before I started thinking about it, because that's what had happened when I got called up to the big leagues. I didn't even call my mom and dad until I was in that bench, make sure they didn't change their mind. So, same way here. Now that I'm here, it's official. Then I'll talk to Mark and our front office and stuff, and we start talking about that. But answer your question a little bit. Yeah, it looks like a fun team. It's going to be a fun team to manage.
Charlie, Griffin Star. This Blue Jays roster doesn't have the base running ability, the speed, the defense, or the power arms that the Rays had. Can you plug a roster into a plan, or do you have to adjust a plan off of spring training to what you have?
You know, part of managing is adjusting to what you have. So I'm going to adjust to what we got, and we're going to play to win, and we go from there. If it's a team that doesn't have any speed, I'm not going to try to steal bases. That just wouldn't be smart. So, yeah, I'm going to adjust to whatever team we decide to have at the end of spring training. That's how I'm going to manage. And a good example, the Orioles a couple of years ago, they didn't run because they hit 3-run homers. So it wasn't smart for Showalter to try to steal bases because they were getting thrown out. Same thing here. Whenever we get to those 25 players, I'll make an adjustment and I'll see what we have, and we'll manage that way.
Charlie, Shai Davidi from Sportsnet, congratulations and welcome. When the players arrive into the clubhouse, and you've touched on small pieces, what kind of manager can they expect to work with over the coming season?
Somebody who communicates a lot, and I think that's one of my strengths. The respect. I respect the player because I know it's not an easy game to play. So whatever I do, as a manager, I think as a player, like how would I feel when somebody's talking to me? So I think that's my main thing, the respect that I have for the players, and I know they're human beings and they got lives, they got families, so that's the biggest thing for me. And the other one, when it comes to me as a manager, is someone that I don't have all the answers. So I'm always looking for useful information, and it could come from different places, from coaches, from the front office. So, you know, that player's always going to know where he stands, because I know that's also big, the honesty. And so, yeah, I think they'll be fine. Thank you.
Charlie, Gregor Chisholm with MLB.com. You played with Vladimir Guerrero in the minor leagues. Just wondering if you guys stayed in touch at all over the years, and what your thoughts are on this coming full circle now that you're the manager, or going to be the manager for his kid as well.
Yeah, Vlad was the best prospect I've seen in the minor leagues. Probably him and Josh Hamilton in my career. And so isn't that, I saw him 3 years ago when his son came to here for a tryout, or he just signed and he was sitting batting practice and stuff. So Vlad's still the same. He hasn't changed. He gave me a big hug, a big smile, and he was happy to see me. So it's going to be a lot of fun for me to manage his kid. And I'm sure Vlad's going to, give me, he's going to talk to me about his kid. And so yeah, I can't wait for that, to see Vlad and give him a big hug. And I'm sure he's going to be happy that I'm going to be the manager of his son.
Charlie, Steve Urchin here with TSN. Welcome. As someone who's probably watched from the other side of the dugout, what's the scouting report from your point of view on Vlad Guerrero Jr.? And as someone who's part of in charge of the development of the team, how do you see yourself bringing Vladdy along in 2019?
Well, to tell you the truth, I've never seen him play. Just he's all over the news because he's the #1 prospect in the minor leagues, but I've never seen him play. So, but I'm looking forward to it.
Rosie again. How do you brace yourself sort of psychologically maybe for what is going to be a whole lot of losing likely in the next couple of years?
Really?
I'm sorry to break the news.
I don't think that way. We're going to play to win from the beginning, and so no, that doesn't. I'm not even thinking that way. We're going to put a team. We're going to from spring training. We're going to from the first game of spring training. We're going to play to win, and then whatever happens after that happens after that. But no, that I don't think like that. No, we're going to play to win.
Hey, Charlie, Keegan Matheson here with Baseball Toronto. I wanted to ask you, maybe you've had these discussions already with Ross, but about what strategies you think you can take over from Tampa Bay that would benefit the Blue Jays, thinking specifically with use of the opener, bullpen management, things like that.
Yeah, that'll be a conversation with our front office, our coaches. Just because I come from Tampa Bay doesn't mean we're going to do everything that they did over there. We're a different team, and we're going to adjust to what we have. So, yeah, when you guys talk about openers and all that stuff, that doesn't mean that's what we're going to do. We're going to get our brains together and talk about it, and we go from there.
Charlie and Ross, did you guys know each other at all before the interview process started? And from each of your perspectives over the interview process, when did things start to click? What worked in terms of the relationship between the two of you?
I'll answer first. Yeah. So I had shaken his hand a couple of times standing behind a batting cage and in the major leagues when he got there, and I had never met him in the minor leagues. I had certainly seen his work and seen him across the field, and over the years, not just over the last month, I have always asked about Charlie, so I feel like I know him well. But I think the phone call I shared, that was just one of phone calls that I had that were upwards of 10 to front office executives, coaches, people that I trust in the game that did know him. And I think the relationships I had with the people that I was calling, whether that be a former manager, current front office leaders, I had so much conviction and trust in their perspective and their knowledge of Charlie that I felt like I knew him before I met him. And then when we sat down and spent the day and a half together, it was. I mean, we do have a lot in common, having been in our careers in the minor leagues or focused on the minor leagues. So a very, very comfortable interaction. But nothing's more powerful than what we had learned about him previously. So.
Well, this is how it happened to me. Of course, when I was interviewing, we went out to dinner, Mark and Ross, and what it was supposed to be an hour dinner, it took forever because the waiter took forever. So that worked out for me. Like, I cannot wait to see that waiter so I can tip him even more because it was awesome. I got to know these guys more, and my thought when that dinner was over, it would be great to work for these two guys. And yeah, so that's my story.
Charlie, your two major league managers were Felipe Alou in '93, Kevin Cash the last 4 years. Managers in the major leagues borrow from people they've worked with or managed against in your case. Could you name 3 guys that you have borrowed, that you have admired and borrowed things from? And can you talk about Felipe as your first manager?
Yeah, Felipe was awesome. He was a kind of that even keel kind of person, communicated a lot, and Joe can speak of that because he was there too with me. And Tony Muser was another guy who I played for who was real honest, and I think that was very good. And then again, Tom Gamboa, his honesty to me, and he's been so positive to me that I said, if I ever managed, I'm going to be like these guys. And so I took communication, the honesty, and the positive side. I think that makes it for a good manager because they were. Yeah.
Charlie, with older teams here the last few years and going a bit younger now, at the major league level, how do you balance coaching regularly and trying to win each game and play veterans, but still finding time to teach and develop young players?
I'm looking forward to that. That's just everything I've done in my life, just teaching and helping younger players to get better, and it's going to be awesome. And again, that's why finding the right coaching staff, it'll be very important to me. And I already talked to Ross about it, having been able to sleep, because that's my number one goal, to find that coaching staff that can help these kids get better.
Charlie, that was actually going to be my next question, the coaching staff. Now you've had a few days to kind of think about it. How long do you think it's going to take you to put a staff together? And do you have guys in mind already, or what's that process going to be like?
I don't know how long it's going to take, but we're going to take our time picking the right people. And, whether it was coaches that were here before or whatever it is, we're going to try to pick the right people because, again, we think Ross and me think that's very important in March. So, we're working on it right now, and whatever it takes, as long as it takes, so we can find the right people, is very important.
Hey, Charlie, Ben Nicholson-Smith with Sportsnet. I'm wondering, obviously, spring training a long way away now, but how do you intend to use those next few months to prepare for the season?
And that will start by finding the coaches, and then so we can start talking about mapping out the spring training. That's why as soon as we can find those coaches, then we can start thinking about spring training. Yeah.
Charlie, Nick here, Yahoo Sports. When you watch the way the game is managed in the major leagues right now, are there any strategies you feel are overused or things you feel like you would do more of compared to what you see, say, in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those guys that never like second guessing the other guy because I know what it's like. So, I'm sure whatever decision they make, they thought about it pretty strongly. So, I mean, the shifting and all that stuff is just part of the game now, but people do it because there's numbers, and that's one thing I could tell you that I learned being with the Rays, that some of those things work, and and then there's all this stuff that don't work. So I learned stuff like you got to make an adjustment. It's a game of adjustments. So you could be shifting one guy in the first half, the second half, that guy make an adjustment. So now you have to make an adjustment as a manager and put the second baseman to the other side. Just stuff like that. It's a game of adjustments, and we'll go game by game. So, yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
Charlie, hi, Ian Harrison from Associated Press. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
You told the story of the dinner, and I wonder whether the time you were waiting to get served, was it as beneficial to learn about Ross and Mark as to sort of pitch yourself in that time? And Ross, could you give your impressions, memories of that night as well?
I was trying to be myself, and that's one advice I got. And so, yeah, I mean, the dinner took forever, but we were just talking baseball. And for me, I could have fun with anybody talking baseball. So, and of course, those two guys they're awesome, but yeah, I wasn't trying to pitch myself or give ideas. It was just a conversation about players, about coaches, about everything. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's certainly an important part is making sure that there is some connection and ease of communication. But in any hire and any interview process is just a piece of the equation, and that was. It was an enjoyable time. But it was all baseball and all personal, making sure that we could learn as much about one another as possible. I believe very strongly that is a two-way street. That in the interview process, that they are learning as much about us as we are about them, and they can oftentimes become a bit of an interrogation, and we were trying to avoid that. The Bosque, I believe, was the name of the restaurant.
Last few questions.
You played here. You played in Ottawa and Montreal, so you spent some time up here, and you touched upon it in your press release. But what are your thoughts of managing in Toronto and Canada? The only major league team in Major League Baseball.
You know what? It's and again, it's awesome because this is my favorite city to come in the big leagues. And as you know, we're in Tampa Bay in this division, so we come here 3 times a year, and I love Canada. I also play in Ottawa, so that's a beautiful place. I had a great time there, and you know, I've been in the big leagues with 3 teams. Of course, one Tampa Bay, and the other 2 it's the Expos and now the Toronto Blue Jays. I love Canada.
Charlie, have you heard from any current roster players on the Blue Jays? Do you plan on texting, meeting, or calling all of them before spring training? And is it possible that coming out of spring training, you'll have a pitching staff that doesn't include a 5-man rotation? And does it depend on what you see at spring training?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I was waiting for this to be official. I already asked Ross for the phone numbers of the players, so sometime tomorrow I'm going to start making phone calls and getting to know those guys, and to me that's very important to me. And we're going to have also the Fan Fest here sometime in January, so that'll be a great time to meet them in person also. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that very much. Huh? We haven't talked about that yet or anything yet, so yeah. I'll tell you in a couple of days, right, Russ? Yeah.
Just a quick question. Where is home to you, and will your family be moving to Toronto with you?
Yeah, that's what Russ said. You better move to Toronto. More or less, yeah. Well, my wife is here. I'll tell you after she looks around. She's the boss of the house.
Last question.
Hi, Charlie. It's Caitlin McGrath from The Athletic. Just wondering, we've seen a trend of younger guys getting big league manager jobs. Did you feel any sense of urgency to get that first big league job now?
No, because like I said before, I was always trying to be the best of where I was and never thinking ahead. So again, like when I was in Durham, I wanted to be the best AAA manager I could be. When I got to the third base coach in the big leagues, I wanted to be the best third base coach. And that might sound fake for some people, but that's just the truth. Like I was never looking ahead to, you know, and yes, I saw the trend. And like my friend Rocco Baldelli, during the year I was telling, dude, they're looking for guys like you. Come on, buddy, you got to do it. Because I love him, and he got one, so I'm really happy for him. And then, you know, and then it happened to me, and it's awesome. You just never know. You just never know.
Okay, thank you, everyone. At this time, I'd like to invite Mark to the stage to take a photo, please.
Say something funny, Charlie.
Better picture than the one in the hall.
Yeah, just a couple hundred more.
Think it's any better?
All right. Surely that's got it covered.
Okay.
We going this way? Yeah. Okay.